New week, new topic with Wilderness Athlete. Here we go. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Right. How goes it? What's happening, everybody? Hey, this is Jim Huntsman coming at you from the Broken Tine Studio in Hayden, Idaho. This is a Western let's see if we can talk today, right? This is a Western Huntsman podcast. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, guys. I got a great episode for you today. Doing something I've never really talked about this topic before. This is about with a company called Wilderness Athlete, and I've got a guy named Kevin Guillen on the line, and he's down in Arizona. And we talk about supplements and stuff. We talk about his background hunting and coues deer and hunting elk and using supplements to kind of, the point with this conversation was as I was a bit curious about the supplement world because I've never really been into that, right? And I'm finding as I'm getting older, it's a little more difficult for me to like drop weight and build muscle, and I find myself losing energy quicker than I used to, and so that's kind of where the curiosity came. I just don't know much about supplements, so I decided, okay, let's get Kevin on and let's talk about it, because I think a lot of hunters are like me, where we're not particularly unhealthy, but we're not super health freaks either. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of hunters that are if you're talking about somebody that has got six-pack abs and they're running every day and they're counting calories or doing whatever they're doing, they're going to be able to go a lot further in the woods than I'm going to be able to do, because the reality is that's just not who I am, and I got nothing against it either. But I think a lot of hunters are like me, where we kind of watch what we eat. We kind of, do what we can to keep, the fat down and everything else so that we could be in better shape. And we work out and we do work towards being in better shape for hunting season, but we're not like obsessed with it, right? And that's the difference. Like when you talk about like Dan Staton over at Elk Shape, dude, that dude would smoke me in a race up a mountain. No questions asked, because that's his life and that's his passion. That's what he's into. For a lot of us, though, that's not our reality. And there's really nothing wrong with either one, as long as you're not like totally out of shape and completely unhealthy. You're going to have a hard time hunting elk or hunting deer or anything in the West, where you got to use some kind of, you got to have some physical stamina. And so anyway, the point being is I'm an average guy. I'm in probably better shape than a lot of guys my age, but I'm not in like, Dan Staton shape from Elk Shape over there. And that's how a lot of us are. And so I just wanted to kind of, investigate this whole supplements thing and learn about it. I'm sure a lot of you use them, and I'm sure a lot of you don't use them and are against them or whatever. And for some reason, there's a little bit of intensity around this topic, but we're gonna leave that at the door as we talk to Kevin and kind of dive into this world, because I'm interested. I'm gonna see what they could do for me. And if you guys have any tips on that, definitely shoot me an email, jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. Before we get to that conversation, though, obviously, we're getting close. I've been telling you guys we got a big drawing coming up, and we're going to have a Phelps giveaway package coming up to the winter here. And there's really no way to win this other than by answering these emails for our trivia questions that I put in the intro of a lot of these shows. So, and it's just something I do because for me, I learn a lot coming up with the questions. I think you guys learn a lot looking for the answers. And it's good to have this knowledge and kind of, advocate for people knowing more about wild game and public lands and all these things that we talk about in these trivia questions. So that's the point of them. And this week's question is going to be centered on, we're going to take it, I believe the last one was on elk. We're going to go to mule deer on this one. Mule deer, what is the primary food source for mule deer? It's interesting because I had something in my mind that I thought was super specific. This answer is actually not going to be super specific. There's a couple of ways that you could answer it, but the search for the answer is really enlightening. It's good stuff to know. So you guys check it out. Then that's the question. The trivia question is, what is the primary food source for mule deer? And when you answer that, you're going to send me an email at jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. That's my email address. And in the subject line, make sure you put the word trivia. And that way I can organize everything and throw you in the drawing. I try to answer all those questions, but sometimes we get a lot of them. So if I don't answer, you don't think that I didn't get it. I did. I just, sometimes I can't get to all of them. So anyway, that's the question. Answer that at jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. Let me know what the primary food source is of a mule deer, because I know we got a lot of mule deer fanatics in this crowd, and you're in good company when I'm in town. All right? Cool. I think that'll be a fun one. Again, getting back to this conversation with Kevin, this is the company is called Wilderness Athlete, and one cool thing that Kevin and I talked about is he is going to give you 25% off if you are wanting to check out his products or their products over at wildernessathlete.com. So that's going to be in the show notes. The website will be in the show notes, and also the promo code that he gave us is welcome25. And so if you guys want to check that out and are interested in any of these products, that's their promo code for like new customers or whatever. So jump on there and use that and save 25% off on whatever you order. The one thing that I didn't know that we talk about in pretty fair detail in this is they have something for altitude sickness. And I've had a ton of you write into me at some point, especially when we were gearing up towards hunting season last year, what do I recommend for altitude sickness? And it's a tough question for me to answer because, I live in the West. I grew up at 4,500 feet elevation and spent most of my childhood at 8,000 plus feet elevation. And to this day, I spent a lot of time in high altitude elevation. So it's just never been a thing for me. I've never had altitude sickness. But I know, like for those of you, listening at sea level, whether you're in California or Texas or whatever, and you're coming out west to some of these higher elevation areas, that's a legitimate concern, and it should be, because you can get pretty sick from it. It can ruin a hunt. And so that was really interesting. So pay attention to that. If you guys have experienced or are worried about altitude sickness, pay attention to that part of the conversation because he's got something for it. Super interesting. Kevin's a great guy. You guys are going to like him. I think he's real motivated, and he's got a really good handle on these products. And hopefully you guys get a lot out of this episode. So with that said, make sure you guys are following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman and Facebook at The Western Huntsman. We've got a great conversation. Well, we've got multiple great conversations going on at our hunting group, Hunting the West - The Western Huntsman. So if not on that, come and join us on that group. And like always, guys, I sure appreciate the support. If there's one thing I could ask of this audience is if you enjoy the show and you tune in routinely, and you think somebody else would benefit from listening to this show, we're trying to grow our numbers right now. If you wouldn't mind sharing a link to the show to somebody that you know, I'd sure appreciate it. I'd be grateful. I'm already grateful and humbled by everything, the support that you guys have shown us. But that would really help grow our numbers and get that's really what matters when you're doing something like a podcast is how many people are downloading and listening to this show. So if you've got somebody in mind and you think they'd like the show or would benefit from some of the information in it, I'd sure appreciate you sharing it with people. If everybody in this audience sent one person, a link to the show, we'd grow pretty quick. So I appreciate that. So anyway, with that said, guys, thanks a bunch for tuning in. Enjoy the episode with Kevin. We're going to have a bonus episode released this week for you new hunters out there, so watch for that, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. All right, guys, this week I'm going to go down a little bit different kind of path than we normally take on the show here. And I'm actually really excited about this topic because it's something that I am not super familiar with. I don't know a lot about, and I've got on the line Kevin Guillen with Wilderness Athlete. And Wilderness Athlete is one of the bigger like supplement hunting related companies out there. Referred to me by our friend Dirk Durham, and he suggested I talk to you guys. So Kevin, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
So this is I want to set this conversation up like this. I'm a guy that I have dabbled in supplements in the past. I'm not necessarily for supplements, and I'm not necessarily opposed to supplements. It's one of those things that I'm super open to just because I really don't know much about. And I've talked to hunters and outdoorsmen that like swear by these products, and I've also talked to hunters that think they're a waste of money. And so the purpose of this episode is like to educate people like me that really don't know a lot about it, because there's a lot of us out there. I think that there's a lot of opinions, but there's not a lot of people that actually know why they have that opinion. And so I want to kind of clarify a lot of that stuff and talk about your company and you, and
Sure.
and we'll take it from there. Sound good?
Sure. Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. All right, man. Give us the bird's eye view. Kevin Guillen, who are you? Where are you from? How'd you grow up?
Gotcha. Yeah. That's kind of an unusual story just in terms of how I ended up here. I grew up in Northern California, born and raised, an athlete my whole life. Playing football, baseball, hunting and fishing and camping as much as I could. Went to college. Actually, right before I graduated college, I went to work for the Department of Fish and Game just to stay close to the outdoors.
Oh, really?
After my football career,
in California or
in California? Yeah. Yep.
Sweet.
Yeah, I worked there for 3 years. Yeah, it was. It was a great job for a while. I had really big aspirations of playing football, at a collegiate level, and injuries, kind of prevented that. Like for a lot of guys, it is. So my next, big passion in life was being in the outdoors and hunting. So that's what I went to college to focus on, and I was able to start working for the department around, before I graduated, and it was a great job. Got me really immersed in a lot of different things with resource management, how state agencies operate, game management and things like that. I came at it from the perspective of a hunter. I really wanted to be, involved in the decision-making process, the surveying process, and the things that were involved with hunting and fishing. And, it was a great job. I did a lot of different things from, depredation work to habitat management to some like endangered species surveying stuff. And then at some point, I just kind of fell out of love with the, bureaucratic system, working for a state agency and resource management, and especially within, California, which is, I'm sure, as a lot of your listeners might know, is kind of its own ecosystem in and of itself.
Yeah. What's interesting, Kevin, is anytime I've got a guest on that is like from California, they're always specific. Like, I'm from Northern California. Everybody separates that. Because Northern California is like a different world in a lot of cases, except for my buddy Guy over at Western Contours. He's kind of down in that sunnier part, but everybody else is like, no. I'm in Northern California. So what's that like? Is California, is that there like this huge difference between NorCal and the rest of the state kind of thing, or?
I mean, I think so. Yeah. And I think there is. The northern part of the state has just so many abundant resources and wild places and places to get outdoors and off a road. Tons of wildlife, tons of different types of habitats, from high country, alpine stuff to, coastal ranges. I mean, there's just and then in the Central Valley, you have incredible waterfowl hunting, some of the best waterfowl hunting in the world, which is what I grew up doing. And that really, breeds a certain type of individual, I think, up there, especially north of that, when you get up into Redding area and Eureka, where there's really a more ranching lifestyle, people that are a lot more connected and reliant upon the land. And, that just lifestyle that changes your just changes the way you view things versus, down in Southern California. It's just an entirely different world, it seems. And I can't really,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the people that know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. There's just cities, highways. There's not.
Okay, you're there, right?
Yes.
We got cut off.
Yeah, no worries.
So, I think I'm not totally sure where we got cut off there, but I'll just have to kind of loop all this in. And you were talking about we were kind of talking about California and the difference between living in Northern California and Southern California and all those kind of variations. And one question I have, like, so you worked for the Fish and Game in California, and like growing up, was that a goal of yours? Was that something you always wanted to do, or where did that come from?
Yeah, actually it was. Growing up, fishing and then hunting is like at the refuge system or just any lake that I would fish at. I always, looked up to the Fish and Game, like the wardens. I'd always see these wardens that just seemed to have like the coolest job. They get to wear guns. They had badass trucks. They had, all the gear, and I thought that was like the coolest thing because they were out here where I am having fun, like the place I want to be, and they're working. But it wasn't until, later that I realized, I'm not a law enforcement type of guy, and you'd need to be, that type of person. I think, a lot of people think that wardens are just turd counters, and they're not. They're officers, and I just didn't have that in me. And the second part about it is, I didn't really like the idea of like, well, they're working when I'm hunting and fishing, and I want to be out hunting and fishing. I don't want to be working, and so
that would be my problem with it, man.
Yeah. I think it's kind of something that hit me. I realized that I'm like, that kind of doesn't sit well with me. I'm sure wardens, still find time to get out and do, hunt and fish themselves, but I think bigger than that, I began to find a passion for just, in the environment and the, our ecosystems and wildlife and, more on I think a deeper level of just how, our interaction is with them as far as, society and what our role in managing wild populations and wild places. And so that's kind of what maybe gravitate more to the sciences side of things. So I went to school actually for environmental studies with a focus on conservation and restoration. So I did a lot of like restoration projects and conservation work when I was in college. And that's really where I found myself in the wildlife management side of things within Fish and Game.
So at what point, so now you're in Arizona. At what point did you move to Arizona?
Yeah, that's where things kind of took a different shift. I was working there for about 3 years, loved a lot of the job, didn't care for some parts of the job. And at the time, my girlfriend at the time, she was applying to veterinary school. She got accepted to Midwestern University here it's in Glendale, Arizona. And my job at the time was I was needing to renew my grants and kind of figure out where my job was going to go. And, I also had aspirations to just live in a different state and travel and experience different things. I've only lived in California at this point in my whole life. So I took the opportunity to move with her. We moved to Arizona. And, initially I moved here thinking, okay, I need to find a job. And I think the natural step is to find another resource job, like working for Arizona Game and Fish or the National Forest Service or something that was, related to what I'd been doing and where my degree was. So I kind of tried that for a while, and it was, it's a competitive environment, especially when jobs aren't always available, and when they are available, a lot of times they like to hire from within. So, I really had an opportunity to follow my other big passion, which was, hunting and the hunting industry. And that's really where I kind of jumped off of. And I got on some forums that were really locally based here in Arizona, coueswhitetail.com and one or two others, and just kind of made a post and said, hey, I'm moving here next week. I'm looking for a job. This is what I'm all about, what my schooling is. This is what I do, what I like to do. If anybody knows of any work out there, and, at the time I was looking for anything, like if it was a resource job, a state park job, or if it was like something in the hunting industry. And it just so happened that Outdoorsman's had had a account on that page, and they were looking for somebody part-time or full-time, and reached out to me and said, hey, call Cody Nelson. He was the manager of Outdoorsman's at the time. Give him a shout. We're looking for someone full-time, part-time. And that's what I did. And it was just a really exciting opportunity for me because it was the first time I had done something outside of, state agency resource work. And this was totally different. It's like I didn't, very different. It was a leap of faith, but it was something that I really felt excited about.
Yeah.
So I moved here and started working for Outdoorsman's.
So, and just to back up a little bit,
Sure.
tell us a little bit about your, growing up, what kind of hunting you did and what kind of hunting you did after college and all that kind of stuff. And let's get into and then at that point, I want to talk about Outdoorsman.
Sure. Yeah. So growing up, when I was 7 years old, my uncle started taking me duck hunting, and I was pretty much hooked on duck hunting, and then just, any hook and bullet activity I could get into from that age. My parents got me into fishing, well before that. And, when my uncle started taking me hunting, I was basically his bird dog for years until I could actually get my own hunting license. But, it was duck hunting that really got me exposed to hunting. I started pheasant hunting with my dad. We got a dog and joined an upland pheasant club, and we did that every year. And so for a long time, I was just a pretty hardcore duck hunting, pheasant hunting guy. Anything with wings, really. And there's such great hunting in California. There's no shortage of places and great birds you can go find. It wasn't actually until I got into college, meeting some guys, and when I actually started working for the Department of Fish and Game, kind of got me more exposed to working with the California Deer Association. I was doing deer surveys. I was working on, property management things for habitat work for deer. So I started to become much more intrigued by, deer, big game. And I always had that interest, but never really an opportunity to get exposure to it until I was in college working for them. I had a really cool opportunity to work in some of these places where, like, my job for the day was to go out and make sure our fence and property boundaries were clearly marked in certain areas that I had to hike and crawl into. And when you're out in those places, you get to see awesome wildlife. You get to, you gain appreciation for these places. And I think that's kind of what started it for me. So I started deer hunting and pig hunting with some guys I got to know, I went to Sonoma State. So, there's a lot of great places just outside of town in that Sonoma County area. And that was kind of that was like a whole nother level of addiction that got me into hunting. And I've been duck hunting, a handful of times, and pheasant hunting a handful of times since then. But really, like, my burning passion now is big game in any shape or form, wherever I can get a tag. But it's just a different experience.
Big game does that, man. Because I used to be, I've never been way into waterfowl. I've done it a few times, and I love going waterfowl hunting just to watch the dogs work. That's always a good time. But I used to be a big time pheasant hunter, and I still go out periodically. But there's something about, like, when the pheasant hunting is good where I'm at, that's when the whitetails start running. And so it's like, you got to balance that out. And I always try to make it a point. My dog's getting older now. And so, it's interesting how that works. But my passion, like you were saying, is definitely on that big game side. And I don't care if it's deer, elk, bear, just big game in general. So, So you, okay. And that explains. So the point to that is, I want people to know, you're a lifelong hunter. You've been an outdoorsman your entire life, and then you make this move to Arizona, and you're working for what was that company called? Outdoorsman or something?
Outdoorsman's, yeah, Outdoorsman's. They've been around for gosh. So we're a Phoenix, and I don't work for them technically anymore, but they are like our sister company at Wilderness Athlete, and that's where I got my start. So they make tripods, some of the best tripods, heads, backpacks in the Western hunting industry, but they also are a huge optics dealership and really are just experts on all of the best optics that are out there today, from Swarovski, Zeiss, Leica, Vortex, anything that's being put out there that guys want to get their hands on, Outdoorsman's carries. So that's where my kind of start was in the hunting world, was in with that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Sweet.
Outdoorsman is a pretty great company. They make some pretty incredible products, and they're starting to carry even more than what they used to. So they manufacture their own tripods, their own heads, their own backpacks. But now they're carrying a lot of other really niche, awesome gear that Western hunters are after. So you can kind of be almost a one-stop shop when you go to their website.
It's outdoorsmans.com.
Outdoorsmans.com. Yes, sir.
Okay, got it. I got to pull it up right here. So
yeah, and their focus is obviously primarily Western hunting, and that's where glassing is the only way to go about it. So that's really what kind of put them on the map a long time ago, when they really invented the first system for mounting your binoculars to a tripod and a head, which kind of revolutionized the whole
systems.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
cool.
I worked there for a while, and at the time, Wilderness Athlete was owned by the same group of folks, and we operated and shipped Wilderness Athlete outside of the same building, but the team was a pretty skeleton crew at the time, and there wasn't really much of a marketing emphasis or just development side of things for Wilderness Athlete at the time. But once that decision was made to kind of branch it off on its own, give it its own office, its own team, and its own energy, that's where I went with it. And so I was kind of employee number one. My boss, who's now our CEO, Courtney Denham, it was just her and I for a couple of years or a year or so, just packing and shipping, running the place, and we just slowly grew the team from people who were helping us with graphic design to sales to inventory management, operations, and now we're sitting here 6 years or so later, and we're just bigger and stronger, more or less.
Yeah. Give us a little history on Wilderness Athlete, because that's kind of the essence of this conversation.
Sure. Yeah. So Wilderness Athlete was founded 16 years ago, and at the time there wasn't anybody out there making supplements or talking about nutrition and health as it pertained to hunters or outdoor athletes of any shape, really. There had for a long time been a lot of emphasis and resources put into your conventional sports, your football, baseball, track and field, basketball, and companies making supplements and really catering to those athletes. Meanwhile, no one was really addressing the rigorous types of environments and things that hunters are uniquely in. And that's where Mark Paulson, our founder, really saw the opportunity. He had spent, he's been in strength and conditioning coach at the collegiate level for 30 plus years, played sports his whole life, played in the NFL for a little bit, but he was always a huge hunter. That was one of his biggest passions in life, was hunting elk, especially in New Mexico. So he pulled together a lot of his contacts, his colleagues that he had gotten over the years in nutritional formulation and human physiology labs, people that really had just some great minds for what the body needs and how to deliver those things, and started Wilderness Athlete. And that's at the time, really had it was kind of this first of its kind brand. Nowadays, a lot of people, I think, they're pretty well aware of the companies out there that are making products for hunters. But at the time, Wilderness Athlete was it for a long time. And that's how it got its start. And, we are a full, and the product line grew, and now it's grown even more. We are a full product line. So we have everything from your hydration products, energy products, proteins, your foundational products like multivitamins, fish oils, joint supplementations, probiotics. And then we also make some specialty products too, like an altitude sickness pill. It's called Altitude Advantage, which is really popular amongst the guys out there.
I see that on the website here.
Yeah, and that's a
So
go-to every year.
that's like a pill that like somebody coming from back east, some flatlander or something coming to some high altitude elevation area to hunt elk or something would take, and it reduces your altitude sickness. Is that what it is?
Exactly. Exactly.
Huh.
Yeah. It.
I didn't even know that existed, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So it basically what it does is it speeds up your adaptation process, like your natural ability to adapt to a low oxygen environment. It speeds that up as rapidly as possible. If you and I were to go up to 10,000 feet and spend a week, eventually by day 4 or 5, we'd start to feel normal. Well, in the beginning, we'd feel cramps, headaches, lethargic, maybe even dizziness. Depends on how you
Yeah,
experience it. Some
you
people are
like
different.
you just lose a lot of energy, and yeah,
Yeah.
I for sure. So,
Yeah.
okay,
And
I
so
want to.
that product is just help speed that up.
Gotcha. I want to circle
Yeah.
back to that. I want to come back to that, and
Sure.
we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I'm super curious before we go to that.
Hmm.
I want to talk about, so you grew up hunting in California, now you're in Arizona. What's the difference
Hmm.
hunting wise? Like how has that? Give us like a comparison. What's it like now being a
Hmm.
hunter in Arizona after growing up in California hunting?
Um, there's a lot of differences in terms of, I mean, if you were talking simply just about like the habitat to hunt, the type of landscape you're hunting is vastly different. Since I've been in Arizona, the majority of hunting I do is in the southern part of the state, central to southern. So, pretty arid desert place to hunt. And that
Yeah, for
offers its
sure.
own, presents its own struggles and its own unique ways of hunting it versus, California, which is more or less a pretty moist state, and especially in the coastal ranges where I did a lot of hunting, it's an entirely different place, a lot more rainfall. So your habitat's entirely different. I did I do mostly just deer hunting here. I hunt javelina as well. I've only drawn one elk tag here. Didn't go too well, but in
Elk hunting
California,
rarely does go too well, man.
yeah, yeah, it can be. I mean, it wasn't a rut tag, so I really had the odds stacked against me in terms of finding elk that aren't in the rut, so they're not bugling. And it was post rut and it was archery, so it was really a dry year, and
Oh
it
yeah,
was just
that
a
would be a
tough
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 hunt.
hunt. It
Yeah,
was,
that'd be a
yeah,
super tough hunt. What about
yeah,
coues deer, man? Do you ever go after coues deer?
yeah, yeah. Almost, it's primarily what I've hunted down here, and I think the reason why. Well, first of all, a lot of the guys that I work with and I'm around, I've gotten to know, they're kind of coues deer addicts, and so I just naturally gravitated to that. But they're just so
Okay.
much fun to hunt. They are so unique in the way that they move around, the habitats they like, their size. They're incredibly pretty deer. They're just really elegant deer. Um, and if you like the glass, which I do, which is kind of its own sport in and of itself, when you're out there and it's just a competition to see who can find the most deer, there's really
Yeah,
not
man.
much
I
any other.
I imagine
Yeah, yeah, it's a trick.
we
And
have we kind of have a little delay here, Kevin. So I apologize about that. So and that's just so the audience knows we're not trying to talk over each other, but there is a delay going on. But
Oh, no
that's what
worries.
happens. I'm damn near in Canada. You're damn near in Mexico. So that's
Yeah,
kind of pretty
yeah,
typical. So that
exactly.
coues deer thing, man, I'm coming down to your neck of the woods, and I'm hunting coues deer. I believe in October,
Okay,
depending on
cool.
which tag I draw.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so like, give me some tips, man. And I want to tell you, like I'm in North Idaho, right?
Uh-huh.
This is like thick, damn near rainforest type kind of terrain. It's super brushy, super thick. We don't do a lot of glassing here. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm elk hunting, I don't hardly even use binoculars. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's how
Mm-hmm.
thick it is. So coming from that to southern Arizona chasing coues deer, I'm gonna have to like relearn how to glass. And you got
Mm-hmm.
any tips for me?
The first tip, maybe the biggest tip, would be to get a tripod. Make sure you're putting your binoculars on a tripod. Makes a world of difference for sure,
Okay.
in a lot of different ways. a lot of people, resort to just, holding it by hand. And it's like, well, I don't see the point. I can sit here and hold them steady by hand. But there's a lot of different reasons why you should, because you're looking at a lot of country down here, because you have vast open, just huge countries. You're looking almost a mile away sometimes to find deer. Some of these deer aren't much bigger than, a big German Shepherd. The coues deer are very petite.
That's what
deer.
I heard.
Yeah. And they're also very well camouflaged. They're very cryptic in the way they move. And so the more stable and steady your optic is, the more likely you are to see the most, minute little movements of deer, which is really the first thing that's going to key you in onto anything you're going to find. I mean, you'll see sometimes it takes a bit of time before your eye starts to get the gauge of what size animal and what you're looking for. But, when you can have that optic completely steady on a good tripod, and you're not shaking with your hands, it really increases the odds of you being able to pick up the slightest movement in your view. The other thing is it just is way less fatigue on your eyes. You're going to spend a lot more time looking in those binoculars that way.
I was going to say, man.
So that would be
that's a great point, and I do want the audience to like hone in on that. The fatigue that you'll get by not using a tripod is actually something that should not be underestimated, because I don't do it much now, but I used to. I lived in Utah, and there's a lot of glass time behind a glass in Utah, and like the tripod. Just having something, this was back before tripods and binos were super popular. So I would actually use a stick, I would find, or I'd lean it on my pack or just kind of lay down, and it makes a big difference. So anyway, now I'm glad you brought that up. The fatigue part is what kills me.
Yeah. Yeah. And Arizona is a glassing game. So, I would say just emphasize whatever you can to make sure you're using the best glass you can possibly use, and getting it on a tripod is going to really do you a lot of favors. Beyond that, I think spending time in a place, a lot of people tend to bounce around a ton. They're like, oh, okay, I glass this mountainside up and I'm going to move. I think patience always has seemed to be a key for me and a lot of the guys I know who have success on a regular basis is, if you have an area that has the right bones, good habitat, good, your good, slopes, the things you're looking for. I think sitting put and being patient is always pretty key, because, sometimes you look at a big mountain range and you're like, God, I've glassed this whole thing. There's no deer here. And more often than not, it seems like there is. They're just curled up underneath some little bush that you'd never see them. So I think patience is key. Because they're unlike mule deer. Mule deer they're obviously a much bigger deer, and they tend to be a little bit more bold in the way they move around. They have more movement. Coues deer have really small home ranges, so they don't move a ton. Like they can live their entire life in, a very small area of ground in their entire life. So you're not looking at mule deer who are migrating, vast distances.
Gotcha. Are you bow hunting or are you rifle hunting? How are you going after these things?
Both, yeah. Both? I mean, yeah. If usually, I'll put in for a rifle tag, and if I don't get a rifle tag, or if I just don't fill that rifle tag, I'll go out for archery season. And we have some pretty awesome opportunity for archery, in Arizona. If you draw an over the counter,
like January or something.
Yeah, right. And you don't have to draw it. It's an over the counter archery tag. And that tag is good in January. It's good again in the middle, late part of August, and then again at the end of December, in most units, and not, in a lot of units anyhow. So it's really advantageous if you don't mind picking up a stick and bow, but it's again, it's a big challenge for sure.
Yeah. So I'm listening to this other podcast, right? Randy Newberg, and he's got Jim Heffelfinger on, who's coming on the show in a couple weeks, and they talk about how when you're talking coues deer, they're like the only two dudes ever that insist on calling them coues deer, and apparently they did all the research to verify that is actually the correct, authentic way to say coues deer is by saying
Mhm.
coues deer, but it doesn't sound right to me. So like, what do you got? Because you've said coues deer. Is this
I
like
said
some
coues deer.
argument you guys? What's that?
It's not really much of an argument. I feel like there's people out there that are really adamant about it, but it's not much of an argument because I know a lot of native Arizonans who've born and raised here, and they've been hunting coues deer for years and years, and they call them coues deer. And anytime that whole cows deer thing is brought up, they just laugh at it and think it's silly, you know. But so I call it coues deer, but I don't really have much information to say why, other than that's just what everybody says. Every time I hear somebody say cows deer, everyone gives that guy a weird look, and it's kind of I don't really know where all that comes from, but
that's funny. I think it's just normal, you know, for you know, the hunting community. If there's something to argue about, by God, they're going to argue about it, right?
Right. That's very true. You know that. Yeah, exactly.
We are rolling right into the spring seasons. I'm talking spring turkey, spring bear. We got to get geared up, and I'm here to help. Let's start with Phelps Game Calls. Phelps Game Calls is one of the OG sponsors of the Western Huntsman podcast, and we appreciate them for being there for us, and I want to be there for them. It's a great company story. It's an American story, the kind we can all get behind, and they make dynamite game calls. And I don't care if you're talking predator calls, waterfowl calls, turkey calls, elk calls. It's all there. It all works. It's a great company, and they've got a great discount for our listeners here at the Western Huntsman. That promo code is Huntsman10 for 10% off. Heck of a deal. Get your stuff. Get your stuff. Go to PhelpsGameCalls.com and get your turkey calls and your predator calls, because here we go. It's already March. I'm excited. Next on the list is Hoffman Boots, the most badass mountain boot you can get out there. I love Hoffman Boots. This company began in North Idaho years and years and years ago, and they have grown into one of the most recognizable name brands out there, and Hoffman Boots will not disappoint. What I really like about my Hoffman Explorers is they are on par with some of the most expensive hunting boots out there on the market, yet they're not as much money. That's a huge thing for when you're talking about all the gear you got to get for hunting season to save a few bucks on a product without skimping on the quality of it. That's Hoffman Boots. That's what you're going to get with them. Use promo code Huntsman10, all caps lock, for 10% off on your Hoffman Boots, and you won't regret it, I promise. Last but not least, let's talk about Scree Gear. Scree is high-performance hunting attire and gear, scientifically tested camo patterns, which, by the way, they have a new camo pattern coming out this spring that you're going to want to keep your eye on, because it's a pretty good camo pattern that they've been testing out all over the country, and it's been working really well. So Scree also is one of those companies with a great story. The name Scree comes from the scree rock found at the bottom of rock faces. You know, the scree rock in that real rugged type kind of western country. And that's where Scree was developed, and they just changed the spelling on it and came up with Scree Gear, because like that rugged country, this is rugged gear. It's high performance hunting attire. Again, like Hoffman Boots, you're not going to break the bank and have to get a second mortgage on it. It's worth the money. Check it out. Go to ScreeGear.com, and don't forget to use the promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. You can't beat it. And folks, I really appreciate you supporting our sponsors that support this show. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Let's get back at it. All right, let's get back to some supplement talk here.
Sure.
Let's talk about for a minute here. So again, coming from a dude who's not super, active with supplements, not opposed to them, not for them, I'm just kind of there. I know they're there. I've never gotten super into them, and I don't know why that is, but I'm interested, because, I'll tell you, I turned 40 this last year. So I'm older than dirt now, over the hill, all this stuff. And I'm finding it's harder for me to build muscle. It's harder for me to lose weight. I'm looking at things. So naturally, curiosity brings me to the supplement world. Can you give us an idea of why use supplements as a hunter? Why are we going to use supplements? Why look at them, consider them, all that kind of stuff. What's your take on that?
Yeah. It's a great question. There's, I think naturally there's a level of skepticism out there amongst the general public about supplements, and for good reason, because there's a long history of companies. There's a ton of supplement companies, and there's a lot of companies that don't do it with the best, I guess, standards, and they've given supplementation a bad name through, shady marketing, or just blatant lies with what's in the product or not in the product. So, over the years, I think a lot of people have almost likened supplements to the same kind of black market in some ways as like steroids, but more or less, I think it's just, people feel like, well, does it even work? And it's a great question, because I think really what it comes down to for us and for a lot of people is like your experience. You said now you're in your 40s and things are starting to take a little bit longer to recover and blah, 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 blah. And that's typically where we see most of our customers, or just most people, kind of becoming more interested and intrigued by supplements, because, when you're in your 20s, everything feels good. Nothing, you recover really quick. You've got all the energy in the world. You bend all over the place. There's not really many reasons why you feel like you need something extra. And so most of our customers, are people that are in their 40s to 60s, because they now value the quality of their health and their longevity of their performance, because it's now something they need to prioritize. And B, because I think there's just more wisdom there where they can tell what's working and what's not. But, I think like your position, you're like, I'm not really sure if I'm against them or for them. And why we've always been huge advocates of, trying it. Just try it and give it a trial run. We have a great money back guarantee. If you try these products for a good 30 days and it doesn't do anything, we'll give you your money back, but the proof is in the pudding, really. And I could sit here and tell you until I'm blue in the face about what this product's going to do for you, how you're going to feel, what it does. But if you don't feel it and you don't see those benefits, then what does that matter? So that's usually the best way to kind of,
like you
introduce
said,
yourself to it.
And like you said, Kevin, it's one of those things where what I was talking about earlier with hunters, they, anything we can argue about or debate and, create tension, that's what hunters are generally going to do. And,
Right.
And so for me, I'm not for or against them, not because of any other reason other than I don't feel like it's something that people need to be for or against. They're safe. A lot of people swear by them. Usually people that are against them have never used them, or used them in the wrong way. And so like, I'll give you an example. You were talking about when I was in my 20s, when I was specifically my early 20s, I'm in the Marine Corps, right? And the Marine Corps is a super active, highly athletic gun club to be in. And
Sure.
and so I remember, like, I could go to Taco Bell and eat 27 damn tacos and still wake up at 5 a.m. and do our 3-mile run, or do a ruck run. And like the next day, I was fine. I can go do it again. Like if I did that today, I would kill over. I would flat out kill over.
Yeah.
And I'm not in terrible shape, but I'm not in great shape either. And I've noticed like for me, I gain weight easier. I lose weight much more difficult, except like, when you get old, like yesterday I cut my toenails and lost 3 pounds. And so, things like you got to get creative. Right. And so
Sure.
I want to know, like for somebody who is pretty active, like I am, I'm a pretty active guy. I spend a lot of time in the woods hunting, and I don't live in, Kansas. This is North Idaho. This is super mountainous terrain, and everywhere I hunt is like you guys down in Arizona. And I want to know, like, I need to lose a little bit of weight, and I want to build some better muscle. And I want to not feel like I need a nap at 3:00 in the afternoon when I'm hunting. You know what I mean? Because that is the biggest difference. When I was in my 20s and I'd go on an all-day hunt, I had energy all day long, right? And then now I notice, gosh, man, after like noon, I'm wiped. I need to just lay down for a minute. And I don't want to feel that way.
Yeah.
And it might not even be possible, but like, what do you recommend for somebody, late 30s, early 40s? We're ready to drop a few pounds again and just
Sure.
be in better shape, build some muscle.
Sure.
Because I'm on your website right now. I'm on this Wilderness Athlete website.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of different, well, I'd say let's start with the simplest thing first. And I think the thing you've kind of described is a most common experience for men and just people in general as they age. You lose weight. It's harder to lose weight. It's easier to put on weight. Your muscle mass is maybe kind of diminished a little bit, or it's just less viable. And energy it's just harder to feel the same level of energy. A lot of that can be tied to things like testosterone production. That's always a thing, a pretty natural decline for men is just as you age, testosterone plummets, and for some people much more rapidly than others. And I think most people hear my T level or like my testosterone and they just think simply sex drive. And it's not that simple. Testosterone is directly linked to your energy production, bone density, muscle mass, all sorts of things, metabolism. So where we try to come at it from is, sure, there's one product out there, Energy and Focus, that will give you energy. It's got caffeine in it. It's got a lot of really good antioxidants and B vitamins that'll help you feel some stimulus and help you feel energized. But when you take a step back and you want to look at how to produce this level of just vitality, feeling leaner, stronger, sharper, and just like you have more energy in the tank, that's really, you got to come at that from the ground level, because there's a lot of factors involved in your energy production, when it comes to metabolism, your gut health. So there isn't generally just one cure-all product. And that's why we, at Wilderness Athlete, we really are a brand, a lifestyle brand, and nutrition and health and fitness is just as much of a lifestyle as being an outdoorsman. People will always tell you, well, it's not a sport. Like, my favorite sport isn't hunting. It's my lifestyle. It's like what I do. Like, it's almost disrespectful to say it's a sport. Similarly with health and fitness nutrition, where people think, well, you're just a health freak. And it's just a way of life that I think that people need to kind of envelop a little bit or adopt in some way, shape, or form. And it becomes a lot easier of a process in that way than it is just to think, okay, well, I don't have energy, so I'm going to start taking this product. And, you might feel some things while you're taking that product, but without it, you might be kind of in the wind.
I like what you said. We talk a lot on this show about hunting is not some passive hobby for most hunters. Now there are, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of hunters out there that, they don't really think about hunting throughout the year, other than when it's deer season, they'll grab a tag and they'll go spend a Saturday or two out on the mountain. And that's great. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of hunters, and especially hunters that listen to this show, hunting is not, we're not, it is a lifestyle, and it is something that we focus on year round. And there's seasons that happen year round, and we're always working towards the next season, right? And I want to be in my peak performance. However, I think that most hunters are like me, where we have day jobs, we have our families, we've got responsibilities, and all these things that take our focus away from maybe taking care of our body to the best of our ability, like we should. And so I think that is a realistic place for a lot of hunters, male or female. Take me for example. I am not a health nut. I am pretty healthy, but I do periodically. I love it when my kids they ask about having pizza for dinner. I'm like, you know what? We haven't done pizza we do pizza like once every couple of months. Or something along that line, where it's not like I count calories and I'm so focused on having 6-pack abs and stuff that, that's my life. And there's a lot of people that do that, especially in the hunting community, and some of these podcasters or, YouTube guys that are out there, and they're just like, Olympic looking athletes. Most hunters are not. And so I'm talking to those guys. I'm talking to the dudes like me. Sometimes we like a cheeseburger, but we also want to be in good shape come hunting season. And so it's this thing that we're always working towards.
Mm-hmm.
For that kind of person,
Mm-hmm.
that does watch what they eat, is active, does, work out here and there, but is not in, 100%, best shape, Olympic athlete status kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I'm dragging this question out.
No, it's okay. I'm with you.
What is your recommendation when I'm jumping on this wilderness athlete website? You talked about it being a lifestyle. So
yeah,
we got a guy like me. Okay, I need to start being better about what I'm putting into my body. I need to drop a few pounds, and I want to gain some muscle so that when I'm on the mountain, I can go further. Where do we go from there?
Yeah, I think that's the key is finding your goal. What's your goal? And I guess it could be a bit daunting to say like, yeah, it's your lifestyle, so you got to just tackle it all at once, which is not really advisable. So you got to set your goals.
Yeah.
What's average Joe X want to do this year? What is it that he's struggling with? What did he feel last year? Was it he just was huffing and puffing and couldn't catch his breath all day hiking up the mountain? Was it his knees that were just feeling like they were inflamed the whole time and he didn't want to move? Was it his strength? Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, is it all the above or what is it? So I think starting with, clearly defining your goal is the best place to start. And I would almost encourage, because if we're talking to the person who has an idea of what parts of their health they want to improve, they don't really know exactly how to do it. That's where we would love to help. And that's where we can come in. And it's not just because we want to tell you, hey, this is the product for you. There's a lot of things we're going to recommend that have nothing to do with products we sell. So I think, for a listener, if like they are the person you're describing who, they have they're not unhealthy, they're not out of shape, but they don't really, they live life. They have a healthy relationship with food. I think finding out what's your goal this year. Do you want to lose 10 pounds? How do you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll give you my exact. I'll give you my exact goal.
Okay.
I want to drop 15 pounds. I feel like I'm 15 pounds overweight.
Okay.
And I want to feel better in terms of energy. Those are like my two things that I feel like I'm struggling with. And, we get socked down with this snowy winter, up here in Idaho, and it's easy to lose focus and gain a little extra weight. So that's my goal. I keep trying to talk to you and read your website at the same time. I got to quit doing that because I keep going on with these tangents over it.
No, it's all good.
So basically, I want to lose 15 pounds and feel better.
Sure. Okay. And what time frame do you want? Is that 15 pounds just in the year? Is it within the next couple months? Like what sort of time frame are you working on?
No, my goal is May 1, and today as of the day of this recording, it's March 5th. Mm-hmm. And so May 1, I want to be 15 pounds lighter.
Okay. So there's a number of ways you can do that. One of the easiest solutions that we've developed is our program. We call it the 28-day Reboot. So that is, as you would suggest,
let me check that out.
It's a program that takes 28 days. And the reason behind 28 days is studies have shown that if you force yourself and you commit to some routines and develop habits for 28 days and you're diligent about it, those things have a much higher degree of sticking with you for the long haul. Those healthy habits, those really beneficial things that you're doing will be much easier and will stick with you, and you'll see the benefits of them for much longer rather than just saying, I'm going to do 14 days, I'm going to do this one thing. So our 20-day Reboot is really kind of a system designed exactly for like what you're describing. I want to lose, 15 pounds. Of course, we don't guarantee how much weight someone's going to lose. Everyone's a bit different. Some people lose weight like crazy. Other people, it takes a little bit of different things to get their metabolism going.
My wife's like that, dude. Like she makes the slightest little adjustment in what she's doing, whether it's eating or her activity level, and she drops weight like crazy. Me? No, not so easy.
Yeah, there's exactly why we don't, say this is what you're going to lose, because I've seen some people lose 25 pounds in 28 days. And And for some folks, that's okay. I think for most people, it's almost too much, too rapid. But for a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, they retain a lot of water, so they're going to lose a lot of water weight. And other folks, it's like, they haven't really exercised or elevated their heart rate in so long that their body is kind of primed and ready to start getting active again. And once it does, and once you're starting to feed it a healthier diet, once you're starting to kind of give it these nutritional supplements to speed things along and support different activity, stuff just starts to fall. It's a cascading effect of good results. So that is a program that I think is something that would be really beneficial to start or look at. It's not just a nutritional program. So you're going to get a meal plan in there.
I'm checking it out. Yeah, there's a meal
Yeah.
plan. There's workout program. It looks like there's like digital access, meaning what?
Yeah.
You got an app or something?
Yeah, it's a website that's optimized for mobile. So once you purchase the program, you get access to this website, which has really great videos. So GIFs, just examples of each movement and descriptions of the workout. So, most people take their phone to the gym, and this way you can easily follow the workout in your phone. But each program also has an at-home version.
Do you have to go? You just answered my question. Okay, because
there's an at-home version for everything.
I'm too far away to go to a gym. So
right.
For me, I have to work out at home, but I have stuff to do that with.
Yeah, and that's
hydrate and recover,
all you need.
Energy and focus, high performance, multivitamin, complete probiotic, omega-3 fish oil, and green. And what is green infusion?
It's a super greens blend. So these are all the products you're looking at. These are all the products that come in this system. Green Infusion it's a super greens blend. It has a lot of phytonutrients in it, and phytonutrients are the nutrients that make vegetables special, essentially. And it also has probiotics in them. So in each serving of Green Infusion, you have the equivalent of 6 servings of fruits and vegetables, the phytonutrient equivalent, in one scoop. So most of us don't consume the required or just the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables every day, or just vegetables. And even if we did, there's a lot of science out there that shows us that the soil, mineral, and nutrient depletion has happened at such an alarming rate that vegetables they're not as densely packed with nutrients as they once were. A tomato today isn't as nutritious as your average Safeway bought tomato, maybe 15 years ago. And we've seen that pretty clearly. So Green Infusion for most of us is just a much more convenient way of getting those nutrients into our system, which has a very big impact on metabolism, which is a very big indicator of your energy. So, kind of like going back to what you were suggesting earlier, you were saying, I want to lose 15 pounds and I want to feel energy. Well, these are almost one and the same thing. We don't have a two-headed dragon here that we have to fix. Really, as you start to lose weight, the factors involved there, the steps you're going to take, the things that you're going to do are just going to in themselves help your body start to produce those energy factors more readily. And you're going to have those mechanisms in your body that are going to be reignited. Those are metabolism, energy are one and the same system. So, one of the key products in this lineup that you get is Lean Life, and it's a metabolism booster. It does have some caffeine. It has an extract called Garcinia gambosia, which does a lot of really good things for appetite control and fat metabolism. So there's a whole host of different things here that are going to go to work. But all of them are going to both help your body utilize the nutrients you're giving it. And during this program, you're going to be giving it a lot better nutrients than you probably are otherwise. And when you're losing weight, you're also going to be you're going to have a higher level of energy. You're going to feel you have a steadier level of energy throughout the day.
So, and it looks like that you guys send like these little booklets to track.
Yeah.
Is that the guide and tracker that is listed?
Is the guide and tracker? Yes, sir.
You know what I like about that is it's a physical workbook. Like it's not some app that you fill out, or it's not online or digital. I think that a lot of people have missed something with the actual sitting down with a booklet and writing in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like writing out your goals versus just programming them into some phone app. Like there's something to be said for that old school kind of train of thought. Not to sound old, but yeah, I hope that makes sense.
It
A lot has
absolutely
been
does, and
lost
we're
with
big
not having
advocates of
that.
that.
Yeah,
We're huge
good. Okay.
proponents of it. We in this book, you'll be forced to physically write out your goal, and not just write out your goal, but there's an exercise in there in the very beginning called the 5 whys, and I think it's one of the most helpful processes and things to go through when you're beginning this. And the process works simply. You ask yourself why 5 times. So you start out with your goal. I want to be 15 pounds lighter. And then you ask yourself why. Well, I want to feel a little bit better this hunting season when I'm chasing coues deer. Why? The further you get down this by the 4th or 5th why, you're getting down to the core reason for you to lose that 15 pounds. And that is a much more compelling reason for you to stick to this program and to remember why you want to lose 15 pounds versus I just want to lose 15 pounds so my jeans fit better. Okay, why? Well, when my jeans fit better, I feel more confident. My wife looks at me a little bit nicer. Okay, why? Well, when my wife looks at me nicer and I feel more confident, we have a better sex life, when we have more just energy and chemistry in our relationship. And those things, when you can kind of keep those front of mind, are much more compelling reasons to go through this process, because it's not easy. That's why these programs are challenging for folks. And we used to call it the 28-day challenge. It's easy to get out of shape and to gain weight and to lose energy. It's difficult to maintain it. And you're going to have moments during a program like this where you want to quit, where you feel like having a cheat meal, you don't feel like working out. And so it's reasons like that, and it's that process. It's those things that just can help you stay a little bit more glued to your goal.
I dig this thing, man. I think I'm going to get this.
Yeah.
Just for the listeners, if you jump on the wildernessathlete.com and go to the 28-day reboot, it's $249 for this whole program, but it comes with a shit ton of supplements. It comes with the workbooks and then access to this website thing. And I think that's what a lot of people need, man. A lot of people, they're like me, where we want to make some kind of positive change in our physical, whether it's appearance or our capability, performance level, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes we don't really know how to go about it and don't want to sit down and research it and all that kind of stuff. And so that's I like this. It lays it all out. And I say that kind of stuff, and I'm probably going to get some hate mail over that, but it's true. A lot of people think that they know how to do this, but they don't.
Yeah.
I start sounding like my grandpa when I back in the Marines, but in the Marines, there was no other option when you're 18 to 22, 23 years old. You could eat whatever the hell you want, and you're still going to have a flat stomach and be able to run 3 miles in 18 minutes. That's what we did.
Right.
Nowadays, it's a different story. And I like this package. It's got good reviews too. So I think I'll try this and hit this.
That's part of it, is life happens. You've got a job, you've got a family, you've got responsibilities, and it becomes difficult to prioritize and find the time for these things. And so a program like this helps you structure your day. It helps you take the guesswork out of it. Really, this whole program is a guide, and if you let yourself be guided in these directions, I know people will have results. We've seen some incredible results. And so you always got to check your ego. And I know there's a lot of people out there like, yeah, I know how to do this. I've lost weight before. I've built muscle before. And maybe you do. So the question then is, why haven't you done it? If you have the tools in your box, then why haven't you done it? And sometimes it takes a program like this and the mental and quite honestly, the financial investment to get you started. And once you've spent $249 on something, you're going to damn well get your money's worth, and I'm going to do it. And that's usually, kind of the accountability it takes. But we also have, just to also let you and the listeners know, so this is the 20-day reboot we were talking about. We have
Uh-huh.
a 28-day rebuild, which is solely a muscle and strength focused program. So has all the same bones, a huge product stack of supplements, workouts, meal plans, and guide and tracker, except for the goal and that program is not to help you lose weight and lose fat. It's to help you build muscle and gain strength. And so for some folks over the years, they've wanted to do the 28-day program we have, but they're like, well, I don't really need to lose weight because some guys, they're skinny. They just can't keep weight on
Right.
and they
Yeah.
want to build
Yeah.
muscle. And so that's what that program is for. And it's just as thorough and it's just as helpful. Some great products. You actually get a few more products in that one. And so it's a little bit more expensive, but it's a great program as
Yeah.
well.
And what's 269? Build muscle, increase strength, regain endurance. So that's for the dudes that are like built like a rail, and you want to build
Mm-hmm.
some muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like me who has my belly's starting to look like I'm pregnant or something. And
Mm-hmm.
so no, that's perfect. That's great. That's a great option.
Yeah.
There's tons of good stuff on this website actually.
Yeah.
There's
So this is,
protein.
like going back to your earlier question, where does a guy start? You want to be May 1, 15 pounds lighter. So this is our first recommendation because we just see a high degree of success with it if you're willing to invest your time into it. But it's not the only way to get there. There's other ways too. Let's say your budget. You say you don't want to spend $250. Say you want to spend far less. You don't have the time necessarily to invest into a daily workout and a different meal plan. So you want to start a little bit, ease into it. That's where I suggest someone can reach out to us. We've got a few different product stacks or just a few different product combinations, like one or two products that can make a big difference. Maybe it does get you to lose 15 pounds. Like I said, everyone responds a bit differently to these things, but if you already have somewhat of a good workout routine and a good diet, I think the key is diet because you can't outwork a bad diet. If you had the best workout program in the world and you worked your ass off every day, but you ate like shit once you get back to the kitchen, you're spinning your wheels. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
for sure.
yeah. So basically, this is not a cookie cutter, one size fits all. There's definitely other ways to get you there, whatever your goals are. And we've
What
always just tried to encourage people to get a hold of us to figure out what that is for them.
Tell us a little bit about this high altitude advantage kit because that's got that stuff we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about earlier, the altitude advantage and
Yeah.
hydrate and recover.
Yeah. Yeah. So altitude advantage, as I was saying before, it's a blend of adaptogenic herbs, and adaptogenic herbs are, or you may have heard them referred to as adaptogens. They, just as it sounds, they help you adapt. They help you adapt to different environments, adapt to stress, and that is essentially what your body is under when you're at high altitude. So there's less available oxygen. So there's less oxygen molecules that are available in that air. And that puts your body under a number of different stressors from lactic acid development to fluid transport, all sorts of things. Your muscles just aren't receiving the same level of oxygen as they need. And when you're hiking a big pack up a mountain, your muscles need and consume a lot of oxygen. So altitude advantage really through different herbs helps your body adapt as quickly as it possibly can. And you're going to start taking that about 5 days prior to your ascent up a mountain. So let's say you're going to
Oh,
start that
gotcha.
5 days prior to your hunt. So
You'll
it
take
starts building
the
up in your system.
the altitude advantage 5 days before hitting the mountain. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
And then
And
start using the hydrate and recover once you're on the mountain kind of thing?
I would start using it prior. We drink it
Oh,
daily,
okay.
and the reason why hydrate and recover is involved in this system and why it's important is because hydration is usually one of the big key factors that or issues I should say when someone's dealing with altitude sickness for a number of reasons. You're not going to typically feel like drinking a whole lot of water if you're all queasy and you just don't feel good. And people start to feel kind of like, I just don't want to drink. I feel fine. And dehydration can set in really quick. The reason why hydrate and recover is so helpful is because it tastes so good. You're just going to want to drink it. It also has a lot of other adaptogens in it, like Schisandra extract, some things that really help with blood pressure regulation, that sort of thing. The
Oh,
other
gotcha.
factor there is in Hydrate and Recover, we use 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Vitamin C is a very strong vitamin when it comes to delivering hydration and moisture to your tissues. So one of the common effects that people will describe with altitude sickness is just sore muscles. Hypoxia essentially is just, it's basically when your tissues are being kind of starved of oxygen. Vitamin C can help deliver that oxygen and deliver that moisture to those soft tissue areas more readily. And it's just another way that you're going to be helping yourself overcome the struggle of altitude, living. And like I said, if we went up there for 7 to 10 days, eventually we'd feel fine. Our bodies will adapt. Our bodies are incredible at adapting to different things. But, as hunters, we don't have that much time to waste. We want to hit the ground feeling as good as we can right away. So that's what the system's all about.
All right. So you guys listening, and you're back east or in the Midwest somewhere, or Texas, whatever, lower elevation, and you're coming out west this year. Hopefully one of you guys grab this the high altitude advantage kit and try it out this year. I want to know how that goes, because I don't suffer from altitude sickness. I live in the West. I'm in high altitudes all the time, so it's a lot different. But I'm super curious about that, because that's a huge issue for people. And so I'd be curious, listeners out there, if you guys have either tried that and have already used it, shoot me an email, or get this kit and try it out this year and let me know. So because I want to stay in touch with you, Kevin.
Sure. Yeah, please do.
I really like the idea of this, and it gives me hope that maybe, I can get some of that youth back or whatever.
Yeah.
where I'm not
so
wore out, Yeah, for sure.
You definitely can.
Before we wrap this up, can you give us kind of like, I always call it the 30-second commercial for wilderness athlete, because there's I don't know how much competition is out there, but there are some competitors out there. And wilderness athlete, one of the things that draws me to that is it is very specific to what we talk about at the Western Huntsman, right? This is where Western hunters, we do have to be very mindful about what kind of shape we're in, what kind of stuff we're putting into our body, and so that we can, you're very rare that you're going to go, a couple hundred yards off the road and get your elk. So let's talk about, why wilderness athlete over some other company or competitors out there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great question. And I think the first, people have a lot of options these days. There's no shortage of supplement companies out there. And so I think the key for us is we hope the people that are interested will take a look under the hood a bit more. And it kind of gets back to what you were saying about skepticism when it comes to supplements. Really, what makes one supplement company different from the other is the quality ingredients that they're using, the amount of the ingredients that they're using. And so typically the formulator and the formulation process is a huge separator, and the facility and practices that are putting it together. So, we've been doing this for 17 years almost now. We have one of the world's top formulators that works for us. We use only the highest grade, human grade, essentially ingredients, pharmaceutical grade ingredients. So, a lot of people think a protein is a protein is a protein, and that's just simply not true. We use a lot of the most current science and studies available today to develop the formulas that are in our products. So the ratios that we're using of certain ingredients to make sure that this product's going to do what it says. And when we develop a product, we don't just, put the stuff in it that looks like it should be in it and put a label on it, which is, I think, what's most common out there in the industry these days is generic, blunted formulas that you can get at Walmart, and there's no difference. One of the things that is commonly not understood is that there is a very few variety of different formulators and formulations out there in the market. You can find the same exact product made by the same exact people using the same exact ingredients, marketed by maybe 18 to 20 different companies that are mass produced and marketed with a different label. This one's for hunters. This one's for basketball players. This one's for bodybuilders. This one's for track athletes. And there's no variation in them. And that is not how we do it. And that's the easy way to do it. It's definitely the easiest way to make a buck, and that's not what we're after. All of our formulas are proprietary. All of our whole process, we have an intimate involvement in, and we are hunters. We're outdoor athletes, and so we're interested in making products that we want to use, that we're going to get the most out of, and we're not going to put something out there for our customers that is not going to be something that we're going to rely on, and that gives us the right, the best quality of health and boost that we possibly can. So cool. I think, one of the things that separates us is really that whole process. And the other thing too is at any time, anybody listening can give us a call or shoot us an email and talk to a human being who really can relate and knows and wants to help and can give somebody some honest to God, real world advice on how to get there, where our products fit in. And that's, I think, increasingly rare these days with just how large and unfocused some companies seem to be.
Yeah, there is a huge trend of a lot of these companies that have taken over corporate America, where it is so unpersonalized. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you just, sometimes you just want to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Let's say you're sitting on an airplane, you're flying to, Hawaii or something for a vacation. You're sitting next to a dude that's like, no, man, supplements are a waste of money. They're a waste of time. They don't work. Look at me. I can do all this and I don't take supplements. What's your response to somebody like that? That's just super opinionated and against the whole supplement idea.
I think my response first is I want to know why they have that. And usually where that comes from is they either had a bad experience at some point in their life, they know somebody who had a bad experience, or it's a lack of understanding. It's just a lack of knowledge. And that is usually where a lot of people, you see that in all walks of life. You see people that, adamantly detest something, but their level of knowledge and understanding of that thing is very thin, And so I think usually instead of being defensive and challenging somebody, I try to figure out where they're coming from and why that is. Everybody loves to feel good, look good, and wants to live longer and better. And that's really the name of this game for us. And we're not into it for, that's what we want to give our customers. And for almost anybody, there is a way that some part of their health, their nutrition, their diet, their schedule can be elevated with a little bit of attention. And sometimes that's all these supplements is allowing people or forcing people to pay more attention to something. And we're very, big believers that, where you put your attention, that's going to see some improvement. If you are struggling with sleep and you start working on better sleep patterns, better nutrition, better strategies to get better sleep, your sleep's probably going to get better. When you start to have joint issues and you start to pay more attention to what you can do, you're probably going to have better joint conditions. So it's really about putting your mental focus and giving your body the ingredients, the nutritional elements that it can really utilize to, make yourself better and healthier. We're not ever going to tell somebody you have to use all these products, you have to do this stuff, otherwise, you're failing. For some of our most loyal customers that have been with us for years, they use one or two products and they live by them. Some people use a huge host of them and they have the results to prove it. But, so I think it's not as simple as just saying, you can write them all off, or it's all for me. Some people, you're never going to win with some people though at the same time.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, that'd be unreasonable to think that you're gonna win everybody over. But I know that's been a topic of discussion in a lot of places when it comes to these supplements. So well, cool, Kevin. This has been a good conversation. I got a lot out of it. I hope the audience did too. I think we covered a lot of ground there, and we need to stay in touch. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this 28-day reboot, I think, and get up to speed before bear season kicks off here in a couple months. And I'm pretty excited about that. So I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, I would just say, and this goes out to you too, any listener that has any questions about anything we offer or anything that I'm saying here, whether you like it or don't, email me at kevin@wildernessathlete.com. And if there's something I can help you with or just clarify, we're happy to do so. Or you can pick up the phone and give us a call. If I'm not around, which I usually am, our customer service team is incredibly helpful as well. So, like for you, for example, when you're doing this program, if in the middle of it you have questions or you're not seeing results or you're struggling with something, don't try to just figure it out on your own. Let us know. We'll be happy to help. We do it all the time. It's our job. So
that's huge.
We just want to be a resource for anybody out there who wants it.
Sweet. No, that's a big deal. Something that you don't get with a lot of companies. So I appreciate that. And let's, like I said, let's keep in touch. And thanks again for coming on, Kevin. This has been great.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Jim.
You made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.